Hello all, my name is Monique and welcome to yet another episode of my YouTube channel. So my purpose is to inspire you to live unique, abundant and fulfilling lives, and I do that by sharing with you things that I find along the way and along my journey so that you can put things into place that we know work. And I'm normal, I'm just like you, so I'm on my journey and I really like sharing, I really like empowering people and inspiring people to be, do and have whatever it is that they want. Okay, so this episode is about a seminar I went to recently. It is a review of a seminar that I've wanted to go to for a very long time, and the speaker that holds the seminar is Tony Robbins, the Tony Robbins. Now if you don't know who Tony Robbins is, he doesn't like to think of himself as a motivational speaker, but he, I would say, is a mental strategist. He gives you tried tools and methods and ways, much like myself, I might add, but he gives you tried tools and methods and ways to improve your life, to create a balanced, fulfilling, abundant life, based on lots of research he's done over the years, on everything from love and relationships to vitality and health. He's got an amazing kind of, he's delved into research and delved into working on people and looking at how the brain works and loads of things like that. And again, he's spiritual as well, he believes in God, but he's kind of delved into every single area and just found out how can he be the best absolute person he can be, and as a result he's always wanted to help people to do the same. Now for me, this seminar, it's not cheap. The seminar is not cheap. But do you know what I think about? I think in terms of learning, I often think, how is it that we are like almost conditioned, or we're told that, you know, that we should go to university and spend, I think it's gone up to like 9,000, I think it's 9,000 a year now or something crazy like that, to go to university to earn a degree. We're apparently supposed to know everything we're supposed to know to go out there and make like tens of thousands and millions of pounds, and quite frankly, I don't think that's the case. And I don't think there's anything wrong with uni. I've been to uni myself. I think you have some valuable experiences there, you meet some great people, and you also learn some great things. But I just want to talk about the cost of uni in comparison to the cost of things like seminars or other extracurricular courses. I just want to talk about the comparison in cost, because, you know, university costs over, people leave with over £20,000 of debt or £30,000 of debt that they have to pay off for uni, and they often don't even remember at least 3 names of their modules, you know, or they don't actually know how to physically set up a business and how to do their taxes. There's lots of different, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with uni, but I'm just saying there's so much more to be learned, that we can learn from books, from courses, from seminars, and sometimes these things do cost money. So yeah, for me, I've always wanted to go to one of Tony's seminars. Literally every year would go by, his seminar would be up, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I really want to go, but I wouldn't have the money to go, I wouldn't be around to go, it just, something would happen and I wouldn't be able to do it. But this year, finally, everything, stars aligned, and I was able to attend his seminar, and it was worth the value. The value outweighed the cost by far. Tony Robbins himself, he came from quite a dysfunctional family. He was, they didn't have that much money, and I think by the age of 17 he was actually chased out of his house with a knife by his mum. His mum was an alcoholic and took a lot of pills and so on and so forth, and he was chased out of the house. And as a result, he actually went to go and rent his own 1-bedroom apartment, and he was working 2 jobs, one being a janitor, and he was also, I think he was studying at the time, but he got very depressed, and as a result of that he put on about 38 pounds of weight. He had a massive belly, he was really angry, he was very isolated, he was in his house, he was what many would call today depressed. And he had no money, he couldn't pay his rent, you know, he was close to being evicted. It was terrible, and I think, and he's always had this thing where he's kind of wanted to find out what makes people tick, how can I help people. He was the person that would find solutions for friends in schools and in his school and stuff like that. So he's always been the type of person that's really liked to help people and inspire and empower, but at this time in his life not at 17, it was a little bit further on, but at this time in his life, he had now gone downhill and he was literally what we would call depressed, until he was listening to something and then something clicked. And he was like, you know what, I don't have to accept this anymore. I don't have to be like this. And he started, you know, finding ways to retrain his mind and reconnect with his mind with the things that he did want rather than the things that he didn't want. And as a result, he ended up working with this guy called Jim Rohn, who is an amazing speaker. He's now passed away, but you can Google him online, Jim Rohn, and he is excellent. And he was actually, Tony Robbins was actually working alongside Jim Rohn. So that is when Tony Robbins, the self-improvement guru, arose, and he was just like ready to go. He would put out all these advertisements, and one thing that makes Tony Robbins different is that he actually studied and looked into to NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And don't worry, it's nothing crazy, but it just basically looks at the brain and looks at what we connect things to in our mind, and looks at how we can rewire those things. So how we can basically, you know, change connections in our minds. So say we have a phobia of spiders. If you can convince your mind that imagine the little spider is wearing little pink boots and like has little eyelashes, all of a sudden every time you see a spider, that connection will come up and you won't be so fearful of it, and you can kind of get rid of that phobia or you know, or thing that you're scared of. So yeah, he looked at neuro-linguistic programming and thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. If I can combine this with the positive thinking aspect, with the health aspect, with the loving yourself aspect, with the spirituality aspect, I can actually help people to create a life that they deserve, and a life that they want, and a life that, you know, they desire. So he started to look into NLP a little bit further and then mastered it. And one thing I like about Tony Robbins, and one thing I can actually honestly say, like hand on heart, is that he is one of the only humans on this earth that I've come across that has been able to master every single area he wants to master. And that is why I would pay to learn from him, because he's learned. He deserves to be heard, you know, because his ways are tried and tested. So yeah, so he mastered NLP, and I remember him saying that he had made an announcement on the radio saying, look, everybody who has, you know, addictions, phobias, whatever it is you want to get rid of, like, let me know, I'm going to be here. This was back in the day when he first started out. Let me know, I'm going to be at this place and I'm going to help you. And I remember he was just in this room with, he thought he was going to have about 200 people, but he had like 500. And he was in this room with all of these people, and they'd all come to see like what he was going to do, and I think he was able to break this woman of phobias with snakes, and he brought a snake around her, and he was able to break the connection in her brain by just, what he calls it is like breaking the pattern. So what we have is like this pattern, and you know how, for example, we have this routine. So when we learn things, we're learning them with our conscious mind, but after a while, when they become like natural habits, they become subconscious. So for example, you know when you're going to work or something, and then you all of a sudden you go a different way. You know when you're like going somewhere and it's kind of the same way that you normally go to work, and you end up like going going as far as going to work and not taking the turn off that you were supposed to turn, because you're so used to that route. Well, that's because it's now embedded in your subconscious mind. So subconsciously, your body just guides you, and you're not actually thinking about what you're doing step by step by step, because the subconscious mind is handling it. Well, those patterns often work against us, right? So those patterns often make us think, you know what, you know, I didn't get the last interview, I didn't get the interview before that, I didn't get the interview before that, maybe I don't get interviews, maybe interviews isn't my thing, interviews isn't my thing, interviews isn't my thing. And before you know it, you've created a pattern going back and forth in your mind about interviews not being your thing, and therefore they aren't your thing, and you continue to fail and not do well in those situations, when really it's just a belief that you've conjured up in your mind, now embedded in your subconscious mind, that needs to be interrupted. So Tony kind of spoke about ways in this seminar to interrupt those patterns, and to be more and do more. And it was amazing. The energy was amazing. He creates an environment where you can really be pumped up enough to make decisions and changes in that moment, and interrupt the patterns. And church works in a similar way for me, because it gets me in a peak state every Sunday, because I'm just like, yes, you're in such a good positive mood, and that positive mood and that high vibration is a perfect state to be in to make any decisions or changes you want to make in your life. Now, to hear the rest of the review, click through to part 2, where I also include 3 bonus ways to change your state in an instant. See you there. Bye. And don't forget to subscribe.